Okay, so welcome back. We are going to learn a new arbitrage strategy. This arbitrage strategy, I will write it in here. It's called cover interest arbitrage, or we call it CIA. I will usually refer to this as CIA. So it's something important that you need to remember. So what's the difference between CIA and the triangular arbitrage? Well, remember the triangular arbitrage happened between three countries. That's the first thing that is different because this CIA, it's only between two countries. And the other thing is that in the triangular arbitrage, everything happened on the present at the same time, right? You found the opportunity to make profit. You just do the operations that you need to do and that's it. You don't have to wait or anything. But in here, not in here, you need to take time into consideration. So I will write in here the two differences. First is that CIA considers only two countries. Triangular arbitrage considered three, that's why a triangle. And the second thing is that CIA considers time. And in the triangular arbitrage, everything happened on the present. So we need to be conscious about the differences. So let me start with this exercise because I think the best way to learn this strategy is by doing an exercise. So let's read what it says in here and let's, as we usually do, let's write the data that we have and then we move on with how we solve the problem. So it says that an investor has $1 million. This means dollars. Remember, this is the dollar sign, which it's also the peso sign, but in the context of this exercise, it's dollars. It says that this person can invest either in dollar or in the Swiss franc market. And it says that you should assume that the interest rates for the dollar and the Swiss franc are these ones. So if you see this, I try to highlight this. It says interest rate. Well, if you can see it in here, the interest rate of the dollar is 8%, and the interest rate of the Swiss franc is 4%. So let me translate that into data, into more specific data. First, the initial investment is $1 million. Ah, let me write in here, 1 million, and this is dollars, okay? That's the initial investment. Second thing is the interest rate of the Swiss franc is 4%. And again, it's annual rate. Does it say here that it's annual? It doesn't say, but it should be. It only says that it's the 90-day, the capitalization of this rate is 90 days, but it should be annual too. Then the next thing is that the interest rate of the US dollar, it's 8% per annum. And finally, it says time. It is 90 days. And I was missing also a very important piece of information. It says over here, assume a forward price of 1.20 Swiss francs per dollar. So the forward rate at 20 days will be 1.20 Swiss francs per dollar. So that means that if we want to buy a dollar in the future in 90 days, we can sign a forward contract and it will be sure that we will be paying only 1.20 Swiss francs per dollar. Do you remember that from, I think, the end of first partial, we learned that in the different types of transactions. The forward is a contract where you are forced to buy or sell whatever currency you're talking about. So in here, if I decide to use this forward, I will be forcing myself to pay 1.2 Swiss francs per dollar. That's what I'm going to do. But don't, if you are again confused at this point, don't worry. I will do the exercise and I think it will be clear. So let's go step by step. I really like to use this methodology because I think it's very visual and it helps a lot. So if you want to follow my methodology, it's okay, but it's not the, I don't know, like the Bible or God's law or whatever, the Constitution. You can do whatever you want, but I think it's very useful to follow this. So you have $1 million. That's what you have right now. $1 million. And that's always very important. I always have to tell you how much money do you have at the beginning. You have $1 million. So you can do two things. You can only invest in the US and that's it. Invest in the US and wait 3 months, wait 90 days, and see how many dollars do you get in the end. That is one option. But the second option is, instead of waiting and staying in the US, why don't you convert your dollars to Swiss francs, invest in Switzerland, and then come back to the US using the forward, because you already have access to this contract. So you can set everything today. You can sign the deal knowing whatever is going to happen, and then you can check if you can make a profit. If you don't make a profit, you just conclude that it's not worth doing that. I will show you when we do the exercise. So I told you to have two options. One is staying in the US, the other one is going to Switzerland. So let's calculate the first option, is staying in the US, because I think it's easier. So if you stay in the US, what would you need to do? You need to calculate the amount of money that you will get in the future, right? So how do you calculate that? With the future value formula. How is the future value formula, or what's the future value formula that we are going to use in this course? It's very simple, and actually is the simple interest future value formula. It is as simple as this. Wherever you have the present value, you will multiply that times 1 plus the interest rate over 360, right? Maybe you remember this formula. It's very simple. It's only the interest rate divided by 360. Ah, and I forgot something. It is also times time, right? Ah, what happened here? Okay, it's something like that. It is, the formula should look like this. So let's put it in Excel. Also, you have the advantage that you have Excel for your homeworks and activities and exam. So just be careful when you solve this. So let's use this formula to calculate the future value of $1 million. So you have $1 million, and you will multiply that times 1 plus the interest rate of the US. Here you have to be careful because the interest rate of the US is 8%. That over 360, then times the time in this case is 90 days, and then you close the parentheses, and you get this number, right? 1,020,000. And this is dollars too. So this is the amount of dollars that you get in the future if you stay in the US. Now let's do option number 2. Option number 2 is to convert your dollars to Swiss francs, invest in Switzerland, and then come back to the US, and let's see if we get more money. So to convert my dollars to Swiss francs, what interest rate should I use? And I think I forgot to write this from the exercise, because you also need to assume a spot rate of 1.48 Swiss francs per dollar. I think I didn't write it here on Excel, but it's also relevant. So you need to write in here that the spot rate is 1.48 Swiss francs per dollar. Sorry about that, but I will always give you the spot rate too, because it's super important. So 1.48 Swiss francs per dollar will be used to convert this amount of dollars. So as you can see, you have dollars on top because you have dollars, and then in the exchange rate, you have Swiss francs and dollars at the bottom. What do you do when you have this? When you have dollars on top and dollars at the bottom, you need to multiply, right? So you will be multiplying this times this, and this will be Swiss francs, okay? Because that's what you want to get. There it is. So you have Swiss francs. Then the next step will be to invest in Switzerland. So we are going to use the same formula, but now with the Swiss rate, okay? So let's use the formula. This, the present value, times 1 plus the interest rate of Switzerland, which is 4%, over 360, times the days, which are 90. Then you close the parentheses. And this is the amount of Swiss francs that you have in 90 days. And finally, the last step, the very last step, this last step is to go back to the US using what? Using the forward. Why not the spot? Because the spot is for today. But in the future, you don't know what will be the rate. We don't know in 90 days what will be the rate between the US and Switzerland. But luckily, we are able to use this forward because we have access to this in our bank, or we can sign this contract with a broker or something like that, but we have access to this forward. So we are sure that we can use the 1.2 to calculate or to simulate our strategy, because thanks to the forward, we can be sure that we can use this. If we don't have the forward, it will be impossible, right? Because we don't know what will happen in the future. But thanks to the forward, we can simulate the calculation. And remember that this is Swiss francs over dollar. So what do you do when you have Swiss francs and Swiss francs? Swiss francs on top and in Swiss francs on top and dollar at the bottom. When you have both on top, you need to divide. So the division will be like this over this. And I think I got a lot of dollars. I think I made a profit. The last step is to calculate the difference, this minus this, because this difference will be noted as a profit between what would you have been doing in the US, which will be investing in the US, and you will be making only $20,000 instead, and instead you decided to do this, going to Switzerland, invest in Switzerland, and then come back and um, make more. You're making 1,245,000. Why you don't divide this minus this? Because we are taking care of the value of money through time. So that's why we compare the future value with the future value in dollars, and this will be profit. And your conclusion should be like that you prefer to use you prefer this strategy, like strategy number 2. And with that, we are done. Just something before I finish the video, it's almost done. Something that I want to note is that I like this methodology of solving this exercise, because if you see this graphically or visually, this methodology, everything that happens in this line or in these two lines is from the US, right? It's the local line. Everything is dollars. If you see everything that happens on this line is the line of Switzerland, the foreign country. And finally, if you see this column is the present. I will write in here. This is the present, this is the US, and this is Swiss francs or Switzerland. And finally, this line, or this column, is the future. So I think visually it's very easy to understand what you are doing. So you are converting dollars to future value. You're investing in dollars, so that's why you stay in the US. And then what you are doing in here with going first down and then going right and then going up, that will be the other strategy, and you can see it clearly. You are moving through to Switzerland, then you are moving to the future, and then you are coming back to the US. So I think that's why I really like this methodology. I find it very simple to solve exercises and to simulate the strategies. This strategy is very useful in real life, usually with companies that work in different countries. Like maybe imagine that maybe one subsidiary is making a lot of money and they need to invest somewhere else. So what you can do is that you can send the money to the other subsidiary in another country, and you can calculate if you can make some profit from that instead of keeping the money in the country where it was generated. So in practice, this is a very useful technique, and we are going to learn more about this. I think in the next 2 classes, we are going to keep on doing more complicated things, because this is the simplest the simplest exercise that we can do about CIA, but we are going to do other exercises that can be more complicated. So I think until here I will stop. I would like to do a quick video explaining the homework and the activity. I can't remember if there is a homework, but let me check. And then I think And that will be all for today. Remember, come to Zoom class if you have any questions. If you want to solve the exercise or something, let me know.